And the background to this is the debacle leading up to this and a previous board, and you were the new board taken over after a transition board, isn't that right? There was a board in place from 2007 till 13, then a transition board, and then yourselves. And you were being asked various questions, and in fairness, it was actually Joe Costello at the time. And you were being asked various questions, what you'd learned, what you were going to do. And the two of you feature very strongly in it. And actually, I think you should read it. And you might do a different opening statement. Mr. Pollock, you did one today, and for the Health Committee, Mr. Costello, you did one. Well, first of all, Mr. John Pollock, it was to produce our business case, I quote, prior to getting approval to appoint the design team in August 14, we had to have the business case updated to show that we were still operating within the figure of 650 million. That was the figure in 2015. Now, we know, I haven't time to go in how that changed it, but that's what she said. And a company, BDO, was appointed to carry out that work. And then you were asked at various stages what you had learned, and you, Mr. Costello, said you couldn't rewrite history. Unfortunately, we cannot rewrite history, but we have to learn and make sure that in every step we make along the way, in respect of any perceived weakness in the decision-making process during the 5 years, we will ensure this will not happen. So you're clearly aware you're taken over. I wouldn't call it a poison chalice, but a very difficult situation. You're fully aware. You're fully aware that 35 million has been written off from the previous debacle, isn't that right, in relation to the Mater Hospital, and some miserable amount like 6 million was saved and carried over. You're fully aware of all that, and you're alerted to that. And in fairness, the former PSC teases all this out, and you go on to say that you're taking great, you're going to appoint a design team, you're going to do a distress test, and so on, and do all of that. Now, arising from this, and why I'm just doing this is, in addition to business cases and stress testing and everything, something has to be learned. And I think the Controller and Auditor General at the time mentioned a project review. And a project review is usually done when it's completed. In this case, the committee agreed there should be a review in relation to the failure. Was that carried out?
Absolutely. And
I think just to be carried out by the department now, so if we could get the department to carry out that.
It was carried out, yes.
Okay. So when was that carried out? Who carried it out? And what was the result of that?
From recall, the department itself carried it out with input from the Department of Public Expenditure, and I think we shared it with the Public Accounts Committee when it was concluded.
I'd love a copy of that, and I'd love to see how this board dealt with that over the ensuing 7 years, almost 7 years, in relation to that.
Yes.
Because there were red lights flashing all over the place at that point when you took this over. And that was on top, of course, of all the debate in relation to the hospital itself. We had the McKinsey report, the Dolphin report, reviews, move from a Mater over to James's, and all of that. So this was red flagged over and over. And you're sitting here before us today, and I've looked through your statements to see what you've learned and what you've identified as failures, because that's all I'm interested in on this committee. What happened? How do we prevent it happening in the future? And I can tell you, I've absolutely no confidence that you have learned something and you're going out. I don't want to be personal at all. I've done my best. This is difficult. To read all this stuff, we're no experts. But our job is to see what is governance and accountability. So we've gone from in that same thing, 650 was the cost, everything included. I think Mr. Costello and Mr. Pollock pointed that out. 650 million, including VAT, including everything at that point. Just let me be quote, and then I'll let you comment. The 650 million is the all-in cost. It includes VAT, inflation, contingency sums, and the project cost. There are equipping costs and designs, and then there are a whole load of other costs. Now, we know that there are a whole load of other costs, but 650 included VAT, included contingency at that point. Now, today, it's up at 2 billion, and we won't exaggerate. It's at 1.4 something billion, then an extra up to 1.7, but no definitive answer whether it's going to go up to the 2 billion. Now, really, just hear that.
So can I clarify that 650 million?
Yeah.
So the 600. So when our board was appointed and we did our first budget in early 2014, we identified that the 650 million would fund the core children's hospital and the 2 urgent care centres. Excluded from that, and it was clearly identified, was additional funding would be required for the 3rd level academic facilities, the school that's part of the Children's Hospital, the equipping of the hospital, whether it was going to be procured through capital or whether it was going to be procured through OPEX and managed equipment services, the retail and commercial facilities.
Okay, no, I've heard that, sorry. So
And the
changes were happening.
So there was a total budget at that stage of 790 million, including that. So the 650 was to fund the Children's Hospital and the Urgent Care Centres, not the entire project.
Okay. You see these accounts for 2017. How much was spent on communication?
I think it's of the order of 200 and...
Well, actually, communications in 2017 is €353,616 on communications. Okay. I am page 32.
32.
Yeah.
Section 4.
So while you're looking up that, the next question is, the planning application costs to Dublin City Council have been recognised. A payment plan is in place. So that's my second question. In relation to the communications, how can you justify such a huge increase? Tell me who it's going to. And then there's another sentence. If you have answers to those, I'll stop. I'm just trying to get my time.
Sorry, yes, Deputy, in relation to planning contributions,
Yeah.
that's a requirement of the
I
grant.
understand. I'm asking how much. What is the planning?
It's approximately €8 million.
How much?
It's approximately €8 million of the planning contributions as a condition of the grant of planning.
It's 245,000 for 2017 accounts.
245,000.
Total in terms...
Costs. Is that planning application costs now?
Sorry,
Yeah.
No,
247
separate from.
including VAT. Yeah.
Sorry, we have planning application costs and then we have development and contributions. Is that right? Two separate things
Correct.
entirely. So just quickly clarify for me, please, what was the cost in relation to the development and contributions?
Well, the development and contributions that's subject to the grant of planning permission.
Yeah, I understand all that. I'm
received.
asking how much.
So it's approximately it's 7.3 million.
7.3 million. And how much of that has been paid?
Over 2 million of that.
Over 2 million. So 5.3 million is still outstanding. And there's a payment plan in place for that. Is that right?
There's a payment schedule agreed with Dublin City Council.
In relation to the communications?
So in relation to communications, there's a huge...
Sorry, are there other planning fees outstanding in relation to other local authorities?
The practice varies from local authority to local...
No, I just want to know, please. Are there outstanding fees? I don't need to know about the practice. Just, are there outstanding fees?
I'm not aware, but I would need to check
Okay.
our records. Whether
Lovely.
that's... Yeah.
Okay. In relation to the communications,
So
350.
in relation to communications, they were all tendered as all our contracts.
Who's that money going to, please?
Q4 is the name of the company.
Q4. So, did they receive that money, or was there more than Q4?
Well, there would be some. We also would. There may be photography. We did some work with the local community in terms of.
Okay, I'll tell you what. Can you come back through the chair maybe and get a list of where that money is going on communications?
that.
Breakdown of communications is a very good title. Breakdown of communications. But in relation to in relation to rent and rates, the rent. Are you paying for offices? Is that rent? Is that your office?
It is. We're renting.
And so rent and rates is gone up to 237,342 in 2017. Again, a colossal jump. Can you explain that, please?
In the early stages of the project...
No, just explain the change, please.
Well, I'm explaining that, Deputy.
Okay.
So in the early stages of the project, our offices were in Hospital 7, which is part of the James's campus.
But that was free of charge.
So that was free of charge, correct.
Yeah.
But we rented a building in South Circular Road for the local community as a drop-in centre where they could come and get briefed on the project.
Yes.
But we then, obviously, as we had the enabling works contract on site, which demolished all the buildings on the James's campus, we had to find a new premises. So we moved to Herberton, which is a premises we share with Children's Health Ireland. So we've moved from essentially what was free rent, now paying rent.
Okay. Do you think that rent is justified, 353? How many of you are using that for that rent?
Well, as I said, the facilities are shared between ourselves and Children's Health Ireland.
I understand that, but this is your portion of the rent.
So we have approximately, I think on our side, we've got about maybe 35 people who would be based in the office. We also have meeting rooms, and our board meetings are held there. The rent is, to the best of my recollection, it's about maybe €9 a square foot.
No, it's 353,616 of taxpayers' money.
But in terms of the rental cost,
I know, and in
we're
terms
changing.
of Dublin and all of that.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we put that alone with the communications, we're up at what?
The 353,000 is the communications
Can I beg
figure.
your
The
pardon?
rent and rates figure is
Thank you.
237,000.
So we're up at 353 and 232. What are we
Yeah,
up at?
about 600,000.
600,000. That's year after year, presumably. Has the communications gone up in 18?
No, it's running roughly about the same profile over the last number of years.
Are we are?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. You're strongly in that.